So delay is one of those utilitarian plugins that can be used in a number of ways throughout your project. You can take a dry vocal like this.
Can we forget about the things I said when I was drunk?
And give it a little space similar to a reverb.
Can we forget about the things I said when I was drunk?
Or use it more as an effect.
Can we forget about the things I said when I was drunk?
And we'll cover the parameters and a couple different ways you can take advantage in Logic. Hey everyone, welcome back to Logic.band. If you're new around here, Logic.band is the website where you can find tips, tricks, and tutorials for blind Logic and macOS users. If you haven't yet, visit Logic.band and subscribe to the mailing list and get a free Getting Started with Logic course. So the delays that we're going to look at today is going to be the tape delay and the stereo delay. Now, the tape delay is a little bit colored, so the delay tails are going to not be as pristine and clean as the original signal is, whereas the stereo delay tends to just be an exact copy. But one of the ways we can work with delays is using the EQ filters that are built into them, so the high pass and low pass filters, to color the repeats a little bit, and that gives us even a little bit of separation with the stereo delay. Other parameters of importance that you will need to be familiar with within a delay is going to be the mix control, the feedback control, and setting the delay time. And those are the parameters that you'll find in pretty much every delay plugin. So let's dive in and take a look.
Vocals, dialog.
All right, so I got the tape delay plugin open here, and as per usual, if I jump to the end of this with VON,
Table, feedback, 16% slider, 8% slider, selected.
We will find a table here that we can interact with and find the parameters in controls view. If your plugin isn't showing you these, then you may want to find the view menu in the plugin window and switch it over to controls view. I got a couple tutorials on how to instantiate a plugin on a track, and I'll link to those in the description below. All right, I'm going to interact with this table.
In table, feedback, 16% slider, 8% slider, selected, row 1 of 20.
And the first thing we have here is feedback. So the feedback control is going to set how many echoes we get, how many repeats we'll get from the delay. So right now the feedback's at 16%, so you notice we're not getting too much in the way of echoes.
Can we forget about the things I said when I was drunk?
But if I turn this up, I'm going to interact with
In,
this,
feed, 16%, slider,
and it's at 16%.
in slider,
Let's crank this up.
20, 30, 46, 56%.
All right, here we go.
Can we forget about the things I said?
And I'm going to move to a different part of the song here just so we can kind of hear this a little better.
I didn't mean to call you that. I can't remember what.
You see those delays are going on and on and on. So if I speed this up,
66%, 76, 86%.
I didn't mean to call you that. I can't.
you see those delays go on more. So feedback sets the repeats. If I crank this down,
7, 6, 56, 46, 36, 26, 16%, 6%.
I didn't mean to call you that.
see we hardly have any repeats there. So feedback sets how many times you're going to have the delay repeat itself. All right, so next parameter we want to look at, and I'll set this back to 16 for now.
16%. Out slider.
Stop interacting with that.
High cut, 20,000 hertz slider, 100% slider.
So we have a high cut,
Low cut, 20 hertz slider, 0% slider.
and low cut. But I'll come back to these in a second because these are usually one of the last parameters that I will tweak. First, I try to get the timing right.
Sync to tempo, free radio button, 1 of 2. Sync selected radio button, 2 of 2.
All right, so now this is where we can start messing with the timing. So we have sync to tempo. So if we have a sync selected, it's going to give us musical time. So it's going to give us quarter notes, eighth notes, 16th notes, etc. to choose from for our reverb time. If we have it turned off, it's going to give us in order of milliseconds. Now, if you have sync to tempo turned on, in addition to giving you musical time to select from, it will set them to the tempo of your project. So if you set your project tempo before you started recording and you recorded everything at a specific tempo, it will help sit your delays into the mix so that they're not as noticeable and don't stick out too much. Now, if you didn't set your project to a tempo, or if you want to freehand it and get really creative with the delays, then turn off sync and you can set it up in milliseconds.
Sync to tempo, free radio button, 1 of 2. Sync selected radio button, 2 of 2.
So sync is on. That's going to give us musical time and sync it to the project tempo. and then free is going to give you milliseconds. So let's continue here. So VO down.
Note 1/4 pop-up button.
Right now our delay is set to a quarter note. So if we VO space on this.
Menu 17 items check mark 1/4. 1/2 triplet.
So you see we have a half note triplet.
1/4 dotted.
Quarter note dotted.
1/2.
And a half note. So if I set this to a half note.
Press 1/2. Note 1/2 pop-up button. Row 5 of 20 cell 2 items.
I didn't mean to call you that.
You see the delays are a little bit more separated. Now the thing is, in a mix, these delays may not stick out as much as you think they do. So if I unsolo this track.
Toggle channel strip solo off.
You see when you have them set to something like that, they're a bit more noticeable even in the mix, right? Let's
Menu 1/2 triplet. 1/4.
go back to a quarter
Press
note.
1/4. Note 1/4 pop-up button. Row 5 of 20 cell 2 items.
And let's hear what this sounds like. So you see, if you want to give it a little bit more of a, almost like a reverb, a subtle ambience, you want to use shorter delay time. So I'm going to go down.
Menu set 1/4 triplet. 1/8. Press 1/8. Note 1/8 pop-up button. Row 5 of 20 cell 2 items.
All right, so we got an eighth note selected. And then we can go down
Menu set 1/8 triplet. 1/16.
to a 16th note.
Press 1/16. Note.
And you see it gets a little bit more and more subtle.
Toggle channel strip solo on.
And I'll solo this so you can hear what this sounds like.
I didn't mean to call you that.
So you see it's almost like a pseudo double at that point because the delay time is so short. So that's how you can change the times. Now I'll go back up here and set this to free.
Sync to tempo. Free radio button. 1 of 2. Sync selected radio button. 2 of 2. In. Free radio button. 1. Feedback. 16% slider. 8% slider.
All right, so that just jumped us back to the top of the window where the feedback is. When I set that to free, I'm going to just navigate down to where we can find the millisecond slider.
High cut. Low cut. Sync to tempo. Free selected radio button. 1 of 2. Sync radio button. 2 of 2.
So you see we have free selected now.
Note 1/16 dim slider.
And you see to choose from the pop-up button of musical time is now dimmed out. So we can't use this one anymore.
Deviation 0.0. Smooth 40. Flutter rate 0. Flutter intensity. LFO rate 0. LFO depth. Freeze. Unchecked. Dry 70%. Wet 30%. Clip threshold 0. Delay time 83.3 millisecond slider. 1.7% slider.
And I just navigated down to delay time, and that's where we can now adjust the time in milliseconds.
In. Delay time 83.3 millisecond. In slider 84, 85, 86, 87.3. 107, 118,
Crank this out a little bit.
181. 182, 252.3 milliseconds.
I didn't mean to call you that.
So you see you can adjust this
252.
time, and let's take this all the way out. See how much delay time we have here.
645.4 milliseconds.
I didn't mean to call you that.
So you see as you extend this time, the delay gets further and further away from the initial voice.
1102.5 milliseconds.
So now, once we go over 1,000 milliseconds, that's a whole second of delay. So this is 1.2 seconds of delay here.
I didn't mean to call you that.
So you see how you can get creative with the millisecond as well. It gives you a little bit more creative control over your delays. All right, so I'm going to switch this back to sync. I'm going to stop
Auto
interacting
slider.
with this.
Clip threshold. Wet. Dry. Freeze. LFO. Flutter. Smooth. Deviate. Note. Sync to tempo. Free selected radio button. 1 of 2. Sync radio button. 2 of 2.
All right.
In. Free. Selected. Radio button. Sync. Radio button. 2 of 2. Feedback. 16% slider. 8% slider.
And you see that set us back to the top of the window here. So now let's VO down arrow.
High cut. Low cut. Sync to note. 1. Deviation. Note. 1/2 dotted pop-up button.
And
I didn't mean to call you that.
you see what it does is it tries to match the musical time to what it would equal to in milliseconds. So this got changed to a half note dotted. So, all right, so I'm going to set this back to maybe a dotted 8.
Menu 7. 1/4 dot. 1/2 triplet. 1/4. 1/8 dotted.
There we go, dotted 8.
Press 1/8 dotted. Note. 1/8 dotted pop-up button.
I didn't mean to call you that.
We got that set up. Now let's explore this window some more.
Deviation. Plus 10.33% slider. 52.8% slider.
So deviation, let's say you got this set to a dotted 8, but it's still not exactly where you want it to be. You could use this deviation slider to delay it a little bit further, so push it a little bit further or bring it a little bit closer. So as you push into the positive, you're going to make your delay hit just a little bit after where the dotted 8 would be. And as you move this slider into the negative or move it down via left, you're going to make your delay hit just a little bit before where a dotted eighth note would be. So this kind of gives you back some of that creativity control that you get with the milliseconds.
Smooth, 40 millisecond slider, 4% flutter rate, 0.0 hertz slider, 0% flutter intensity, 0% slider, 0% slide, LFO rate, 0.20 hertz slider, 10% slider, LFO depth, 0% slider, 0% slider. Freeze, uncheck checkbox.
So smooth, flutter, and LFO, those controls have to do with the emulation of the tape part of the tape delay. You can mess with those to see how affected your delay tails can be. So if you use extreme settings, you'll start to hear how the delays start to degrade over time. And that gives you some creative control with the delay. If you just don't want a clean, pristine delay, this is why I use the tape delay. Pro tip, if you turn off all the delay settings, you can actually just use this as a tape emulation plugin in Logic as well. So mess with those tape delay settings and get some really interesting sounding sounds for your delays. And shoot me an email, oriomonster@logic.band, and show me what you've been working on. So, all right, we're going to continue on here.
Freeze, uncheck checkbox.
Now, this freeze checkbox, this is something you have to automate, because what it's going to do is basically just hold that delay.
Check freeze, checkbox.
I can't remember what.
You see, it's just holding that repeat whatever it caught when I checked that checkbox. So you want to automate that because you don't want that to stay on the whole time. And I got tutorials on how to automate an effects parameter. I'll drop a link to that in the description as well.
Dry, 70% slider.
So now we have dry.
Wet, 30% slider.
And wet. Dry is the unaffected delay signal, and wet is going to be the delayed signal. Now, we're using these delays right on the vocal track, so you need to use these two to balance the dry signal to the wet signal. If you're using this on a aux or send, you want to turn the dry all the way off and only use the wet signal. The nice thing about using stock Logic delays and reverb is when you instantiate them on a send, by default, Logic does tend to turn the dry signal all the way down and set the wet all the way to 100% for you. So check out my tutorial on using aux and sends. To get it, join the mailing list at logic.band, and you'll get a copy of my Getting Started with Logic tutorial emailed to you. And in there, I cover how to get started setting up an aux or a send in Logic for something like that. All right, so right now, because we have this on a track, we got to blend this in. So I'm going to go back up to dry.
Dry, 70% slider, in, 70% in slider, 80, 100.
Up to 100%. So now the dry signal is exactly at the level it was before.
Out of slider, wet, 30% slider.
I didn't mean to call.
Let me go turn
Dry,
on.
freeze, check, uncheck freeze, checkbox.
Freeze.
Dry, wet, 30% slider.
I didn't mean to call you that.
If you're going for a very, very ambient, kind of like almost like a reverb type signal, you want to keep the wet signal very low.
In, 30%,
So
in slider.
I'll turn this up
40,
to
50%.
50% so we can see what this sounds like.
I didn't mean to call you that.
And I'll put this back in the mix for a second here.
Toggle channel strip solo off.
So you see that's more audible, but if I take this down,
40, 30%, 20%, 10%.
even down as low as 10%, that gets a lot more subtle. So if I solo
Toggle
this,
channel strip solo on.
I didn't mean to call you that.
you can still hear that there's a delay there. But if you put it in the mix,
Toggle channel strip solo off.
Didn't mean to call you that.
it becomes a lot more kind of like a little bit of almost a pseudo double effect or something you can use in place of a reverb. Now, the other thing, let's go back up and look at the feedback again. I'm going to turn this back
In
up
slider.
just
20%, 30%.
for now.
Out of slider.
So jump back up to the top of the window where the feedback
Wet.
is.
Out of, wet, 30% slider, 30% slider. Row 14 of 20 cell 3 items.
Let's stop interacting with that. And I'm going to do via
Feedback,
home.
16% slider.
There we go, feedback.
In,
So let's interact with
16%,
this.
slider.
And if we take
slider.
this down
6%, 0%.
to no repeat, and then let's jump back down to the wet.
Out of slider.
I'm going to just use item chooser.
Item chooser menu 32 item. 1 item. Wet, 30% slider,
There we go.
30% slider. Row
That's the wet slider.
in,
Interact with
30%
this,
in slider.
and
20%.
take this down.
19, 18, 17%.
So you see now we have something that's a little bit more subtle. Let's go
6,
down.
15, 14%. 13%.
And I'm just doing VO shift left and right to move in smaller increments here.
Didn't mean to call you that.
So you can do something like that. So now the next thing we want to look at here is the high cut and low cut.
Auto
So
slider.
go back up
Drop.
there.
Free. LFO. Flutter rate. Smooth. Deviation. Note. Sync to temp. Low cut. 20 Hz slider. 0% slider.
So the low cut
High cut. 20,000 Hz slider. 100% slider.
and high cut are going to roll off some of the highs and lows in your delayed signal.
Toggle channel strip solo on.
I'm going to go ahead and solo the track again. And I'm going to take down some of the highs here.
In. 20,000 Hz. Slider.
I'm going to play this again first.
I didn't mean to call you that.
And now let's reduce some of the highs.
11,000. 6,000. 3,500 Hz. 2,000 Hz.
So we're rolling off everything above 2,000 hertz.
Auto slider. Low cut.
And-
20 Hz slider. In. 20 Hz. In slider. 36 Hz. 64. 110 Hz. 200 Hz. 360 Hz.
Let's go
650 hertz.
with something like this.
I didn't mean to call you that.
So you see, now that delay isn't so cloudy. It's not getting in the way of the vocal as much as it was before. Let's
360 Hz.
bring this down a little bit.
I didn't mean to call you that.
All right. Let's
Auto slider.
take the
High cut. 2,000 in. 2,000
High
Hz. In
cut
slider.
up a little
35.
bit.
6,300 Hz. 11,200 Hz.
I didn't mean to call you that.
we just brought a little bit of brightness
Auto
back
slider.
into that, and
Low cut. 300 in.
Take out
360 in slider.
a little bit
650
more
Hz.
of the lows.
I didn't mean to call you that.
So you can mess with these settings in the mix to then go ahead and further set your delay into the mix once you get the settings you want. So remember, the big important things you want to look at in a delay plugin are going to be your time. So that's going to be whether you do it in musical time, like eighth notes, 16th note, quarter notes, or whether you do it in milliseconds. If you have it set to free instead of sync, you can then do it in milliseconds. And then you want to adjust the feedback. The feedback is going to be the number of times it repeats. And then you want to adjust your mix, which is how much of the delayed signal versus the dry, the unaffected signal you're blending together if you're doing this on an insert. And then you want to use a high cut and low cut to help everything blend together. Now, as I stated before, the tape delay has some additional settings for just adjusting the tape sound, the warble, and how degraded the repeats will sound. There's also diffused or clean if you want a cleaner sounding delay or more diffused sound and delay. So go ahead and have a play with those settings and share anything that you come up with Logic.band and the community. All right, I'm gonna
Out of table. Vocals. Tool bypass. Check. Uncheck.
bypass
Bypass.
this.
I didn't mean to call you that.
There we go. And so I'm gonna close this
Now in.
window,
Now. Vocals. Dialog.
open up the stereo delay.
Toolbar. Button. Bypass. Uncheck. Check. Bypass. Checkbox.
I didn't mean to call you that.
As you can already tell, this sounds cleaner than the tape delay does. And so it's just a matter of whether you want a super clean repeat or you want something that's a little colored. Much like the tape delay, you can use the high cut and low cut filters to color the delay a little bit, but it's never going to be anything like the color that you're going to get from something like the tape delay. The other thing you may have noticed is that I have this one up in stereo. The tape delay does have a stereo mode, but when you have the same delay time set on the left and right, it will sound in mono, and I'll show you what that sounds like. So let's jump to the end of this window here
Table. Mix left. 30% slider. Selected.
and interact with the parameter table.
In table. Mix left.
So this one starts out with the mix controls at the top.
Mix left. 30% slider.
And the nice thing about the stereo delay is that you have a separate control for the left and the right setting in one window. And this makes it really helpful to dial in because they're in the same window. You can do the same thing with the tape delay, but you have to do it in dual mono mode. And I'll be doing a tutorial on that. So join the mailing list so you'll get a notification when that is available. I'm going to continue exploring this window. And you see we got the mix for the left at the top
Mix
here.
left. 30. Mix right. 30% slider.
Mix for the right.
Delay time left. 334 milliseconds dim slider.
And you see the milliseconds are here and it's dimmed.
Delay time right. 167 milliseconds dim slider.
And delay time for the right, milliseconds dimmed also.
Feedback left. 35% slider. 35% slider.
You see we got feedback time for the left,
Feedback right. 35% slider. 35% slider.
feedback time for the right,
Crossfeed L greater than R. 0% slider. 0% slider. Crossfeed R greater than L. 0% slider. 0% slider.
And now crossfeed is really cool because essentially what it does is it feeds some of the delay signal from the right into the left channel and some of the delay signal from the left into the right channel. So it's another cool subtle thing to play around with to give your delay some interesting movements.
Beat sync. Checkbox.
All right, so beat sync is what allows us to sync this to the tempo in the stereo delay. If you remember in the tape delay, it was just called sync or free. In the stereo delay, it's just going to be beat sync checked or beat sync on check. When beat sync's on checked, the milliseconds that we saw at the top is what you adjust, and the drop-down menus for picking musical time like quarter notes, 16th notes, etc. will be dimmed. And when beat sync is checked, then you'll use the drop-down menu to select musical time, and the millisecond sliders that we just passed will be dimmed out like they are right now. So let's see what this is set to.
Note left, 1/4 pop-up button.
So the left side is set to a quarter note.
Deviation left, 0, note right, 1/8 pop-up button.
And the right side is set to an eighth note. And this is why you hear that stereo spread here.
I didn't mean to call you that.
So if I change
Menu
this,
14 items check mark, 1/6, 1/8 triplet, 1 check mark, 1/4 triplet, 1/8 dotted, 1/4. Press 1/4, note right, 1/4 pop-up button, row 12 of 31 cell 2 items.
So now you have a quarter note on the left and a quarter note on the right.
I didn't mean to call you that.
You see, it sounds a little mono because now we have the same exact time on the right and the left. So the stereo delay, if you set them up to use a different time on the left and a different time on the right, you'll get a more wider sound from your delay. So that's the issue you're going to run into in the tape delay. If you use a tape delay in stereo mode, if you don't use it into a mono mode and set a different time on the left and right. All right, so
Deviation, note right, 1/4 pop-up button.
we have the deviation slider for the left and the right. That pretty much does the same thing it will do in the tape delay, where if you adjust it with VO right, it will allow your delay to hit just after where a quarter note would normally land if it was dead on time. And if you adjust it with VO left arrow and into the negative, it will allow your delay to hit just before where the quarter note would normally land if it was dead on in time. So I'm going to go ahead and set this up with a dotted eighth on this side.
Menu 14, 1/8 dotted. Press
we go.
1/8 dotted.
I didn't mean to call you that.
And let's see what happens.
Deviation, note left, 1/4 pop-up button. Menu 1/16 dotted. 1/8 triplet. 1/16. Press 1/16. Note left, 1/16 pop-up button.
I didn't mean to call you that.
You kind of hear the separation there a little bit now, with one side being so much longer than the other. In fact,
Note right, menu 4, 1/2 triplet. 1/4 dotted. 1/2. 1/2 dotted. Closing menu.
I didn't mean to call you that.
you see one side is really short, one side is really long. So you can do some really interesting things, or you can set them close to each other but not exactly the same and get a little bit of width and separation if you want to use it in a subtle reverb type replacement mode, or you can just get really crazy and expressive with them if you separate them a little bit. All right, so if we continue on here.
Deviation right, 0, input left, left pop-up, input right, FB phase left, FB phase right, FB phase up, FB phase arc, high cut left, 20,000 hertz slider.
You see a high cut for the left,
Low cut left, 20 hertz slider.
low cut for the left,
High cut right, 20,000 hertz slider.
high cut for the right,
Low cut right, 20 hertz slider.
and low cut for the right. So just like everything else in the stereo delay, you get separate controls for the left and right. You don't have one set of parameters. Both plugins are going to have a lot of the same parameters. Like I said, the important stuff you want to pay attention to get started is setting your delay time. If you have beat sync turned on in the stereo delay, that will be where you can choose from musical time, quarter note, 16th note, eighth notes, etc. And if you have beat sync turned off, unchecked, then that's where you'll use the millisecond slider to adjust your time. You have a separate mix control for the left and right, so you can set how much of a blend you want on the left side versus the right side, if you want the right side to be a little bit more noticeable, etc. And you have a high cut and low cut filter for the left side and the right side. You also have feedback control for the left side and the right side independently in the stereo delay. There are also a lot of cool presets built into Logic as well, so don't hesitate to go through the presets in both the stereo delay and the tape delay. That's it. Play around, have some fun, and remember, the tape delay is going to be your colored option. The stereo delay is going to be your cleaner option, so it's just a matter of what you're looking for in that regards. Now, normally on a vocal, I would EQ and compress the vocal before running them through delays and reverb, but this was just kind of a demonstration, so we're just using a dry vocal in this particular instance. If you want to get more in depth with vocal processing and the way you can use these tools, EQ, compression, delays, reverb, saturation, etc., to bring out the best in your vocal, then feel free to visit logic.band/training and book some one-on-one time. We can go deep on delays, reverb, vocal production, or anything else having to do with Logic, VoiceOver, and macOS. And as always, you can support the channel by subscribing, liking, sharing, and you can also visit logic.band/support and make a donation. You can subscribe with a monthly donation as well if you want to support Logic.band in an ongoing monthly manner. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the mailing list. You get a free Getting Started with Logic course if you do that. I'm also going to be sending out some other goodies to the mailing list soon over the holidays, so don't forget to go to Logic.band and sign up for the mailing list if you haven't already. As always, if you got any questions, you got a favorite delay you like to use, share that with the community in the comments below. And until next time, happy recording.